Hello everybody and welcome back to Screen Stars. I'm here today to bring you my review for the 2019 science fiction film Cyber Bride. Now this is a film that is directed by Louisa Warren, and it stars Andrew Hollingworth as Rick, Rebecca Finch as Angelique, AJ Blackwell and Peter Cosgrove. Now this is a low budget science fiction film, a UK based low budget science fiction film that focuses on Andrew Hollingworth's character Rick and Rebecca Finch's character Angelique. They are a young married couple, they're very much in love, and tragedy strikes and Angelique is killed. Now obviously Rick is absolutely distraught by this and struggles to move on, struggles to get through the grieving process as anybody would in that situation. However, coincidentally, there is a technology firm out there that can offer you the opportunity to design your own partner, if you like, your own female companion, and you can give them this the schematics that you want, how you want this bride to look, how you want her to behave, the personality, the memories, all that kind of stuff, and they can program it all into this robot, and then lo and behold, that gap in your life is plugged. As you could imagine, it isn't, as Rick goes forth with this and he recreates his wife in this robot, gives her all her memories and all this kind of stuff. But as you could imagine, these robots, not just his robot, his version of Angelique, but many others, start to malfunction and question their existence and why they are here, all that kind of stuff. So what did I think of Cyber Bride? Well, I've got to be quite brutally honest here, not a lot. It's a very, very low budget film, let's get that out of the way straight away. Very, very low budget film. It's quite similar to a recent film I've just watched called 2050, the one with Dean Cain, who used to be Superman. I reviewed that quite recently on the channel. Very similar concept, although I think the 2050 film did it far better than this, posed better questions than this. This was just a real struggle to get through, if I'm honest. It's so low budget. It really stands out, and the performances from most people, I think Andrew Hollingworth and Rebecca Finch as the two leads do okay, apart from when Rebecca Finch has to play the robot, because for some reason the direction of this film, the direction they give the actors when they are the robots is imagine if you went to a party and someone said to you, behave like a robot. Well, that's what we get here in this film. You just get them walking around and really stiff, and no eye movement and things like it. It's really amateurish. It's the sort of thing you'd see in an amateur dramatic class or something, and it doesn't work. They'd have been better just behaving normally, I think, and it would have been creepier, the performance, if it had just behaved as normal as it can, and just putting an odd tweak here and there just to remind you that it was a robot would have worked far better. The way they do it in this film, it just stands out like a mile. And the thing for me, the thing that interested me most about this film was this central idea of this grieving husband who's lost his wife, who was very much in love with, and how he was getting through this grieving process. Now, if they'd have focused on that a bit better, I think they would have had an more interesting story here, and it would have posed a far more interesting question. I think once they moved on from that, his grieving process almost, and moved it far too much into the sci-fi element of it, it lost its appeal to me, and it lost its interest, and the story wasn't there for me. And I've seen him before in low budget films, Peter Cosgrove, and I can't remember which ones. I think it might have been for some reviews I did for Geek Legion of Doom. He plays his neighbour Barry, and he's like the weirdest neighbour you could ever imagine. If you had this guy for your neighbour, you would never ever knock on his door and ask for a cup of sugar, I promise you that much. But it seems like the best buddies. And there's something happens later in the film that he really does act very creepy later on in the film, but he's like the worst neighbour ever. He's like Charlie Manson or something like that. A really, really weird choice to put him in this film, and it just, again, it detracts from the central core story of this film, which is supposed to be this grieving husband, and what would you do if you were in his position and this technology exists. That's the central core of this question here, but it loses its way. It loses it completely, the question in this film. It goes down a completely different path, and it turns into essentially malfunctioning robots that, you know, start taking their dissatisfaction out on their human slaves, I suppose is the best way to put it. So I've got to say, I deeply dislike this film for the most part. It didn't do an awful lot for me, and its low budget and poor performances, for the most part, really dropped the standard of this film. So I'm going to give it a 3 out of 10. I was really quite disappointed with it, but the central core question is a good one, and unfortunately they didn't focus on that enough, in my opinion. So that is my review for Cyberbride. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you found it useful. Thank you very much for watching, and of course I'll see you back for more reviews on Screen Stars soon.